Good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, March 7th, 3:15 p.m. Eastern. Back and forth kind of day. The Bulls started strong for the first hour and a half. The Bears took over for another hour and a half. Then the Bulls took over the last 2 hours. So a back and forth kind of day, but hitting a new high of the day here in Power Hour is definitely favoring the Bulls as we're trying to get over all hourly moving averages, and we're looking up at the high of the bounce over the last couple of days at this point. So checking the daily time frame, and again, it's very important, and I can't stress enough my style of just listening to the charts, because if you listen to, the news and all that, it definitely influences your overall opinion, and it's fine to have that, but we can see all these kinds of signs and bearish things long term, but until it happens on the daily chart, we have to play what the chart is telling us. And that's essentially what happened if you saw the video of The Big Short about the crash in 2008 when it was coming apart at the seams. We still had upgrades being put out, and we still had the market holding on when it was very clear there were tons of red flags. So obviously that ended up playing out into a huge dump. But the point is, if you're playing options that expire in a certain time period and then the dump doesn't happen in the time period you're expecting, you lose. So it's important to, again, charts are going to be telling us all that we need to know, in my opinion. And right now, the chart is completely disregarding anything about Cohen. So we're looking at the daily chart. We have our key support. This is the must-hold level for the Bulls in the shorter term. That's 264.82. Resistance, I'm looking at 273.39, but the big level is 278.92. So we have a bit of a tightening pattern that is likely to break on Friday once we get some of that data. And we're either going to be looking, really the major levels for me are 264.82 and 274.36. So checking in on the dollar. The dollar is holding on a little bit. We do have an inside bar on the daily time frame, and we are looking at the potential of a lower high on the daily because we have lost the higher lows. Gold, however, is pulling back from a little double top and pulling back pretty significantly. The Bulls have to form a higher low comparative to this level, and that's down at 1302.68. And then from there, they have to break this double top and get through 1341 to break resistance. So gold is now forming a tightening range as well. Oil, tightening range. So this is the daily time frame, very similar to SPY. High of the bounce. We're not nearly as strong as SPY. If we were, oil would be at the high of the day. But we have our lower high, higher low daily equilibrium pattern to be watching, and a little bit more of a longer term weekly equilibrium with our high, low, lower high, and we're looking to see if the Bulls are going to form a higher low here. So oil very similar to SPY with some slight differences here at the end of the day, but certainly going to be watching how this daily chart breaks for oil and see the impact that it does have on the S&P 500. Natural gas bulls still in control. 4-hour RSI getting a little extended. We've seen a lot of green in a row. And watching the inventory report, if we get a bullish reaction to the inventory report and the 4-hour RSI is very overbought, I will be looking for bearish entries to be looking for this weekly lower high to form. And that's only if we see a bullish reaction with 4-hour RSI very extended. Otherwise, we'll be waiting for a 4-hour trend change and a loss of the higher lows. Cryptocurrencies had a dump today. We had some FUD in terms of everybody spreading rumors that an exchange was hacked. Turns out the exchange was not hacked. There was some phishing scams going on, and they reversed it all, and everything's back to normal. But obviously, the price has not recovered yet. So the 15-minute time frame is in equilibrium with our low of the dump, high of the bounce, higher low, lower high. The key levels right now on Bitcoin are 9,618, and resistance. Gotta change my color here. 9,618, and resistance is 9,872. Very clear 15-minute equilibrium to be watching, and we'll look for this to break sometime within the next 2 hours. Checking in on Litecoin. Litecoin has multiple hourly inside bars to be watching, and a very similar pattern on the 15-minute time frame. Equilibrium forming. I currently have a position in Litecoin. I've flipped it a couple times today, and I have a position that is slightly profitable, and I will exit if we lose this low, which is 179. So if 179 breaks, that is a bear break, and we're looking back down at the low of the dump. Keeping in mind that Bitcoin at this point, the 4-hour RSI is still down in the low 20s. We're down at 23. Hourly RSI has cooled off a little bit. That's now in the upper 20s, but that 4-hour RSI, as we know, once it gets down to these levels, bounces from these levels. We very, very rarely, and I can't even remember one, where we saw this RSI stay below 20. So here we are at 23. If we did dump down and hit lower lows, we would have an RSI on the 4-hour time frame in the teens very quickly. So it's all about this 15-minute equilibrium pattern. Checking Ethereum. Ethereum is a little bit weaker 15-minute pattern here as well. All about 15-minute equilibriums. And that's what we are watching right now. And just want to highlight that in the chat room real quick to make sure people that aren't watching are aware. So let's get into some daily and weekly setups. And we'll start it off with BA. Need to make sure I'm keeping an eye on things here at the end of the day. Pretty good mix of red and green on my screen. So BA is a tightening pattern. We have our high, our low of the pullback. Lower high is 355.21 resistance, and now a higher low at 339.50. So that's the range, 339.50 to 355.21. Declining volume is with that tightening pattern as expected, and looking for a break of this. If not tomorrow, then certainly Friday with the data that we're going to be looking for, and that's going to be a catalyst for short term on Friday. So definitely going to be paying attention to tightening ranges, and if we don't break tomorrow, Friday will be a day that we very likely break. So weekly time frame for BA, certainly still favoring the bulls overall, but if we were to break 335.30 support, the low of last week, then we would start to lose these exponential supports, and these weekly exponential supports on BA have been holding well over a year. So losing them would be the first red flag of a pullback, and we would look to the weekly middle Bollinger Band and down to support of 315.83 if we did get a bear break. BA has a long way down if the markets go bearish and we lose those weekly exponential supports. SNAP. So nice bounce over the last couple of days. We're going to set a lower high on the daily because anything under 2075 is a lower high. And the bulls are going to have to form a daily higher low and a higher high to change this trend. So once we do begin consolidating after setting a top, which might be at this 1850 level, 1851, if we pull back and form a higher low comparative to 1631, we'll then need a higher high and a bullish MACD cross to change this trend. The weekly time frame is very healthy consolidation. You could call that a bull flag on the weekly, absolutely. And they're trying to confirm that we are done consolidating on the weekly time frame, but I won't be confident until we get a daily higher low and a higher high that weekly chart is going to be following through, trying to see that bull flag confirm. WYNN. So Win has a key resistance in the short term up at 169.95, and we got up to 169.23 today. We've been struggling at the 50-day moving average resistance time and time again the last 2 weeks. Have to close above that level ideally. We're going to be battling it here at the end of the day. If we do get over 169.95, the next resistance, aside from the daily upper Bollinger Band, is going to be up in the upper 170s. So there is some nice space, but keeping in mind we're coming from the low of this pullback, so we will need a daily higher low and a higher high to be confident. And we're holding the weekly middle Bollinger Band support and trying to follow through. So it's all about the 50-day moving average and 169.95 resistance in the short term. Twitter had a good day for the bulls, breaking 35 resistance. Key break of a triple top. And there's a lack of resistance nearby. The weekly chart, you have to zoom out years, and there's no resistance until the 3660s. So the bulls have space up to 36 psychological resistance. And you actually have to zoom out 3 years. So the next resistance on the weekly time frame, I'm looking at 36.67. And bull flag on the weekly was confirmed. Box. So box on the daily time frame, bouncing from the all-out dump. Key resistance is 2083 because if we break that level, we'll be filling the gap on the daily time frame back to the upside. If we do not break that level and pull back, we'll have to form a daily higher low and then a higher high, which will give the bulls more confidence, in my opinion, establishing a new level of support because, again, this bounce is coming off of the low and we've already bounced well over 10%, about 15% or so. So we have the low of the dump, high of the bounce. Maybe we have to consolidate and form a higher low if we cannot break 2083. And the weekly time frame certainly has changed the trend. And it's been a very weak, very choppy weekly time frame. We lost the higher low pattern. We saw a new all-time high and then an all-out dump. It's been all over the place. And it looks like earnings. So if we lose the hourly higher low, then we'll look for daily consolidation to form a higher low. XBI, biotech bulls holding on well today, and they're still just fine on the daily time frame, heading to higher highs again. And the top of this bull move is approaching. I'm looking at 95.93, 96.28, and 97.98 as the next few resistances. The weekly time frame is all bull as well. And if we close right now, it would be the second highest close that we've seen on XBI in years. So still very bullish on the biotech sector, and it would take a clear break of 88.19 to lose the daily higher low pattern since the dump recovery. Amazon still extremely strong, and here we are looking at the all-time high at the end of the day. The all-time high, we came 25 cents shy of the all-time high, and it could still get it here at the end of the day. So Amazon bulls, I know I keep saying it, but as long as Amazon bulls and the lead tech bulls stay strong, this market is not going to see much weakness. And we have a new support level on Amazon at 1522.51, and we'll be looking at 1550 psychological resistance if we do get a new all-time high. OLED. OLED oversold bounce trying to play out. We've broken a couple resistance levels. We have to be cautious of a bear flag as long as the daily exponential resistance stays resistance. The next resistance is 125.80 aside from those levels. And the bulls are closing at the high of the day, so they are looking for some follow-through into tomorrow. And the weekly time frame is trying to form a bullish reversal candlestick after the trend has changed. We're just looking for a short-term bounce here. We're not going to change the trend anytime soon. But we are closing up at the high of the day. DLTR. Gap down today, indecision candlestick. A little bit of a bounce off the low. Pretty good, but compared, I need to look at the hourly chart actually just by how all over the place this candlestick looks. DLTR. So we dumped and we're starting our oversold bounce right now on the hourly time frame, breaking the previous top of the bounce, 89.13. So next resistance, I'm looking up at 90.84, so 90 psychological will be next. And we'll see if the bulls can follow through on this hourly bounce into tomorrow. The hourly RSI is still 22. And the daily lower Bollinger Band resistance will be a key level over the next couple days to be watching as it drops down very rapidly. Tesla. So Tesla had a bear break today. We didn't see a ton of follow through. And again, its market correlation is the reason for that. The market bulls showed up and we're up over $2 from the low of the day on SPY. So even though we broke support, we do have a clear lower high, lower low pattern. But if the market's going to stay bullish, the bears aren't going to get a whole lot of follow through to the downside. Just like Netflix has bounced $7 from the low of the day today and is right back near the high of the day and near the all-time high. So for Tesla, resistance is 328.53, and the key resistance is the lower high on the daily, 337.75. Anything under that level is just another lower high. Support is 321.74, and then 318.52 as the next level after that. And the weekly time frame is an equilibrium on Tesla. We have the high, low of the dump, lower high, which is essentially a double top, and we are going to be looking for a weekly higher low comparative to 294.76. Netflix. So Netflix recovery, we could be forming a daily bull flag. It's very healthy consolidation at this point. Our new support is 314.55. And resistance is the high of today, and then the all-time high is 325.79. So still very strong for Netflix. Above the upper Bollinger Band in breakout mode on the weekly time frame for a month in a row. And a new daily support is established at the low of today. ACB.TO rejecting from the daily upper Bollinger Band resistance and consolidating. There was a gap to fill at 11.28. We have not filled it yet by a penny. So 11.28 is a gap, and the bulls ideally want to hold I'd say they want to hold 1050 to remain the strongest on the daily time frame. And we're still looking for that higher low. Good sign for the bulls is that volume is going to be less than half of yesterday's bull volume. So declining bear volume on consolidation, always a good sign. WED, same thing. We knew to be looking for consolidation. It's a bearish reversal candlestick yesterday. Very low bear volume. We will be scouting a bull entry sometime in the next couple of days. And we're looking for a higher low, ideally above 28.63. And we will look for a shift on the 15-minute time frame to go from lower highs and lower lows to higher lows and higher highs to be one of the first indications of a momentum shift. And then once the hourly does it, we'll be confident that our daily higher low is forming. And if the hourly RSIs get oversold, we will absolutely be looking for entries, but that's going to take a pretty bearish couple days to get down to oversold. IN.ca. That's a lot of bear volume, so that's a bit of a red flag. Like I said, bulls want to see declining bear volume, and that's not the case, but we will be looking for an entry. There's going to be a nice higher low here that forms at some point. We just have to be patient waiting for it. And then once that higher low forms, I would expect a 10% bounce pretty easily. So tomorrow I'll start looking for it, but ideally I'd like to wait until Friday if we see another red day and then a pullback Friday morning or a weak start Friday morning. That's the ideal kind of setup I'd be looking for. But again, same thing with the 15-minute time frame. And I guess I got to use the US ticker here, but we'll be watching for the hourly to get oversold, the 15-minute time frame, trying to hold a base of support at 115, but as long as there's 15-minute lower highs, we're still in consolidation mode. But there's going to be some nice range here because we ran so hard. We got a lot of range to bounce around and find our higher low and then bounce and likely form a lower high. Apple. So Apple, we're watching for the potential bearish reversal head and shoulders pattern on the daily time frame with our left shoulder, our head, and our right shoulder. So the must hold support for the bulls is 172.45. If we lose that level, we lose the daily higher low pattern, and that will be a bearish indication for the market overall, showing the tech leader with some weakness, and tech leader just by weight in the sector, not by strength and performance at the moment. So I'm watching the range of 172.45, and key resistance is 178.25. And we're looking for a break, ideally before the end of the week, but if not, probably Monday. But again, data on Friday could see that follow through. Question is, what direction will it be? IIPR, pulling back from the daily upper Bollinger Band resistance after 3 daily rejections in a row. We are changing the trend. We are breaking the downtrend, breaking all kinds of resistances, and now we have to form a higher low and higher high on the daily. So we'll look for a higher low to form somewhere above 23.63, perhaps in the mid-25 range. And all the while, the upper Bollinger Band is going to slowly be ascending to create some room for the bulls to see some continuation. Curious what the weekly looks like here. Weekly's looking good. That's long drawn-out consolidation on declining bear volume, bouncing off the middle Bollinger Band, and bulls trying to say, all right, we're done consolidating. And just a political note that if sessions were removed, marijuana stocks in the U.S. will spike. So IIPR, if that's news, I would blindly buy IIPR as soon as that news came out, if I could, if it's in the right scenario. So just be aware of that news. We will see the sector respond bullish if that occurs. SHOP, all-time highs, closing at the high of the day, looking up at 190 psychological, bulls in absolute full control, and looking really good with a new little support, not an essential support on the daily, but it's a new level, 179.70. LIX.V. So we lost the daily higher low pattern, and that's what we were watching yesterday. Looks like the bulls bought the dip a little bit here. Support 216 is a double low from today and Monday. If 216 breaks, we're looking at the 200-day moving average of 213, and then down to 205 is the next support level. And I would look at this one on the hourly because it does look like we're forming a daily equilibrium pattern. Or an hourly equilibrium. Too choppy here. So the bulls are going to have to break 225 to see any kind of follow through. And daily exponential resistance is knocking the price down. DGACF. DGACF is, let's see, we had a low of 159 and a low of 159 and 158. So that's a double bottom at the low. And bulls are trying to change this trend. Anything under 248 is a lower high. So we will form a lower high here. The daily middle Bollinger Band resistance has been rejecting the price. That's in the low $2 range. And the bulls are going to have to form a higher, they're going to have to top out on this bounce attempt and then consolidate and form a higher low and a higher high to see a bull MAC decross on the daily and to change this trend back in favor of the bulls. So almost a bit of a descending triangle pattern potentially setting up. But the bulls aren't done just yet. They're closing pretty strong, and we've seen this bounce last a few days, so we'll see if they can test $2 psychological resistance and the daily middle Bollinger Band resistance sometime in the next few days. And 158 is that must-hold level. YY up at the high of the day, daily inside bar to be watching, so whatever the high of the day ends up being, that's the resistance level that has to break tomorrow. Perfect bounce off the weekly middle Bollinger Band twice in the last 5 weeks. And trying to get over moving average resistances, and there's a lack of resistance here. So it took a long time for the bounce to play out, but it's certainly playing out at this point. Hourly moving average resistances in the upper 128s are the next resistance levels to be watching aside from psychological. VMW, bounce continuing after filling the gap and closing near the high of the day. Again, volume is declining. Definitely want to make note of that. And we are going to form a lower high on the daily comparative to 133.64. But bulls might not be done yet as we're closing at the high of the day. Weekly charts, a nice equilibrium. All-time high, low of the dump, lower high, higher low. Range right now is 113.30 support and 133.64 resistance. And I would expect to stay within this range for at least another week. Unless the market goes crazy. HSE.TO. Backtesting and holding middle Bollinger Band and 100-day moving average support. 1715 and 1750 are resistance levels. Volume is really dropping off. Weekly chart looks weak. Upper wicks of profit taking. 2-week dump, 4-week bounce. Only getting back half of that dump. So definitely would be cautious if we lose these moving average supports that have back tested and held a few times at this point. LABU very strong up at the high of the day. Next resistance is 104.13 and 109.25. And no red flags on the daily unless we lose 82.30. And the biotech sector closing real strong here at the end of the day with some SPY strength. CRON consolidating. We will look for a higher low on the daily. The question is where. And on the hourly, we're trading sideways. Nothing going on the hourly. 15-minute equilibrium. Range on the equilibrium, 1250 support and 1266 resistance. We'll see which direction this breaks. Very low volume on consolidation compared to the bull volume on the way up once we got listed on the NASDAQ. So again, we're watching for healthy daily consolidation, and at this point, you could absolutely call that a bull flag attempting to form. EMH.V, weak close at the low of the day yesterday, low of the day today, but declining bear volume. Gap to fill at 531. And we will look for a daily higher low to form. Perhaps that gap fill will be where that higher low looks to begin forming. And again, this bounce is coming off the low of consolidation, so we need that higher low and higher high to be convincing that the trend has changed for the bulls. MSFT equilibrium on the daily over the last week is pretty clear. High, low, lower high, higher low range right now is 92.43 and 94.49. Daily middle Bollinger Band has held a few tests. Similar to a potential head and shoulders pattern like Apple, but closing a lot stronger than Apple. So the odds of it being that pattern are less likely. Tesla news, it looks like. Big time breakout the last 10 minutes. Surprised I didn't get a news flash there. I actually don't have anything in the last 20 minutes on Fidelity. So it hasn't hit the wires yet. It certainly looks like a news reaction. I guess there's no news. It is short covering. But the question is, where does this volume spike come out of nowhere to squeeze those shorts? Highest 5-minute volume candlestick of the day at 3:30 is not common. So Jet is very bullish, breaking out. Very nice trend change and then just slow and steady. That's a really nice chart. And all-time highs, so 125 and 130 next psychological resistances. Definitely getting overextended, and once we lose the daily upper Bollinger Band, that will tell us some healthy consolidation is likely coming. Amazon all-time high, PEN. PEN is extremely strong and has been on a tear. It's closing up at the high of the day. And we're at all-time highs here as well. So 120 psychological on watch. Once we lose the daily higher low pattern, that's going to be an initial first red flag for potential consolidation. We've seen higher lows on the daily time frame a lot. I'm seeing 9 days in a row. V equilibrium the last few days, high, low, lower high, higher low. The range is 119.70 and 123.24, closing strong up at the high of the day, as is SPY. Just did cron. Sam asked me a question I need to type out. APH. So APH pulling back, low volume, looking for a higher low. The ideal level to hold was 1353, and we're right there. So you can see, again, just how much weaker it is than other names. The ideal level to hold, we're already at that support level with the other names not. So WEED, the ideal level to hold, look how much higher above it we are, whereas APH is right on top of it. And I'm referring to the inside bar from March 2nd as the ideal level to hold. Still watching the cryptocurrency 15-minute equilibriums. So the bulls are in full force here, checking back in on the SPY candlestick up at the high of the day. And up at the high of this move, 273.39 resistance. And it's due to Amazon and tech sector strength. The tech sector's up 0.63%. Biotech sector's up double that, but it doesn't have as much weight. There were a couple reasons for the potential dump in cryptocurrency. One of them was the SEC saying that they are going to potentially require exchanges to have a license. That's a good thing in my opinion. Let's see what else. There was that potential hack, which ended up not being a hack. Japan might... I mean, these articles all come out at the same time, and it's so suspicious. We reject from a key resistance yesterday, and then today, 3 FUD articles, some of them certainly exaggerated, all come out near the same time. Something about Japan maybe shutting down some exchanges, I don't know. But Bitcoin did hold key support. Bitcoin must hold daily support for me. Was 9,324, and we bounced off of 9,400. So we are still in a daily equilibrium pattern. I was anticipating a daily higher low to form. I was anticipating it to take longer to play out. But we now have a very clear must-hold level. So one by one, more tickers going green on my screen after being very mixed. And really, it's just Canadian MJ that's the most red. So both Tesla and Netflix gave us bearish signals early in the day, but because SPY, it just highlights the importance of SPY. Because SPY turned everything around and the bulls took over, those bear breaks completely turned around with them. So Amazon 1550 is the next resistance. Booking Holdings is at all-time highs, 2130, the next psychological resistance there. Names continuing to hit all-time highs. CMG bulls are trying to make their way out of the no-trade zone, still a ways to go. Look at the volume disappear on CMG. We're going to see a volume spike and a break of this no-trade zone sometime in the next couple days. So I hope you all have a good rest of your day. We got a couple more days left in this week, and I do think we will see some uptick in volatility once these tightening daily ranges break. Still, it's been pretty good volatility even without the breaks. And volume yesterday, 79 million. We're going to be pretty much in line with yesterday's total volume. XOM resistance is 74.82 stands out. Close at the low of the day for Canadian MJ. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good day, night, evening.